You can flush these games down the WC. It's a pair of sports titles for TurboWorks Episode 11.
She's been playing it at about 90% speed, maximum speed.
You guessed it, Steve.
What would a console from Japan be without a baseball title in the early mix? The biggest precedent we've seen for that sort of thing so far on this channel has been the Gakken TV Boy, and no one wants to go down that road. So we can consider world-class baseball the TurboGrafx 16's bid for posterity, or at least its effort to avoid instant obsolescence. I'm not sure that effort was entirely successful here in the US, but it certainly worked in Japan. So thumbs up for world-class baseball, which did precisely what it was meant to do, and nothing more. It is bulk filler content for a console, an attempt to check a mandatory box and make sure that one standard point of video game interest was fulfilled for the audience who demands such things. I don't feel like NEC's heart was really in it. As far as I'm aware, the TurboGrafx 16 received exactly one baseball title on either Turbo Chip or CD. One. This one. That's several dozen fewer entries than the shooting genre had. No wonder I like this system. The weird thing is that world-class baseball looks incredibly similar to Tommy Lasorda Baseball for Genesis, which also shipped around the same time. Lasorda's game had slightly more realistic character proportions and the usual razor-sharp colors that you'd expect from a Genesis game, but otherwise, these two simultaneous offerings on competing consoles presented consumers with startling parity between the machines. Both Lasorda and World Class Baseball feature identical pitching and batting interfaces with curiously similar animations for both pitchers and batters. And once the batter connects with the ball, both games shift into the exact same, fully top-down Hotline Miami-style fielding interface. Something really unique within 8-bit baseball games, which preferred to emphasize depth of field in their field visuals to pretend that they were 3D. There's no real discussion of this curious similarity to be found online, but according to one archived forum post I stumbled across, they look the same because they are the same. Supposedly, this forum goer posits, Tommy Lasorda Baseball is a port of World Class Baseball. I can see it. In Japan, World Class Baseball shipped as Power League in June of 1988. 10 months later, Tommy Lasorda Baseball shipped as Super League for Mega Drive, looking a little crisper and more realistic than the PC Engine original. When Super League came to America, it even featured an MLB license and player endorsement to help sell it to the rubes, something missing in the TurboGrafx 16 title. So this would seem to be a reverse case of Fantasy Zone for TurboGrafx, where that Turbo release saw NEC peddling a much better interpretation of Sega's iconic shooter than Sega themselves had offered. Here we have Sega selling a juiced-up adaptation of Hudson's big baseball title. This narrative almost works, except for the fact that Tommy Lasorda Baseball also resembles a Sega arcade game called Super League, which came out a year before Hudson published Power League. So maybe Hudson ripped off Sega. World Class Baseball being a minor and largely forgotten sports release means that this is one of those quarters of video game history where no one has really taken the time to explore the details in any real depth. I tried Googling for more information and ended up with an AI summary telling me that Super League was created by Konami. Unsurprisingly, the only thing AI does better than positioning 8-bit outfielders perfectly is being confidently wrong. So, World Class Baseball. It's pretty much an 8-bit baseball game with better graphics. You can pick one of 12 teams to play as. Since Tommy Lasorda pinned down the MLB rights, these teams are based on cities around the world, hence the title, I suppose, rather than being patterned after American big league teams. It's nice to see little guys like Italy and the UK getting some baseball representation after years of dominance by US and Japanese teams. Each team has a roster of players with individual names and stats, based on the handful of proper reviews I've been able to find, which is to say, not just someone in the year 2007 hastily playing an exhibition match to write a virtual console capsule review. It does appear that the stats matter. The manual even recommends you level the playing field in human versus human matches by forcing the superior or more experienced player to sub in their second stringers. Team customization only works for exhibition play though. You'll find the meat of World Class Baseball in the pennant mode. which allows you to work toward the championship with a single team and offers a password save so that you don't have to play the entire season in a single sitting. That's nice and all, but we once again see the TurboGrafx 16's late entry into the US biting its library on the proverbial ass. If World Class Baseball could have shipped in 1988 here in the States as it did in Japan, the season simulation feature would have stood out as a rare novelty. Unfortunately, in the August of 1989, it had to compete with the immensely more detailed and expansive Baseball Stars for NES, a better, deeper, more customizable baseball game for an infinitely more popular system. With no passwords, it had battery backup. So World Class Baseball sits in a weird, unfortunate place that really kind of defines the TurboGrafx 16 in the US as a whole. Not as rich in content as the firmly established Nintendo option, not as marketable or clean looking as the shiny new Sega Genesis option. It's good, but maybe it's not quite good enough to really stand out. Which is not to say that the entire TurboGrafx 16 sports library was doomed to also ran status. If you want a great and great looking sports title with no real American parallel, look no further than World Court Tennis. At first glance, World Court Tennis seems like a fairly basic take on tennis. The court spans beyond the bounds of the screen resolution and pans around as needed to follow the ball. So basically, it plays like Racket Attack, though it lacks the realistic proportions of Jaleco's Moero titles. After all, World Court Tennis was created by Namco, the people who made their fortune on RBI baseball. And you'd better believe that they tried to carry through the overall vibe of that mega hit into their other sports-related creations. And so, World Court Tennis uses a visual style for its characters that I can only describe as Cabbage Patch Kids. Big, oblong heads with simple cartoon eyes on juvenile-looking bodies. The doll-like look of the characters belies the ferocity of the gameplay. World Court Tennis does not take prisoners. This is a pretty tough take on the sport, fast-paced and featuring aggressive opponents. However, it does offer you a lot of play options. You can select men or women as your avatar. You can also play mixed singles and doubles with and against other people or the computer. There's even a demo mode for those who like to watch. It's all well and good, but honestly, there's not much to it that you haven't already seen in half a dozen other 8-bit tennis titles. Fundamentally, the gameplay in World Court Tennis doesn't stray too far from the principles of Nintendo's tennis from 5 years earlier. All it really offers for this ostensibly 16-bit console to set it apart from its predecessors are a spate of play options and somewhat more colorful and stable graphics than the NES or Master System could offer. Oh, and there's just one more thing. It also includes a play mode called Quest. And this is where things get interesting. Quest mode is exactly as it sounds, a single-player tennis experience with a storyline. But this is not Ridge Racer Type 4, where you just advance through races in the usual linear fashion while people chat with you between competitions. Quest mode in World Court Tennis is a legitimate quest, as in a role-playing quest. Namco originally debuted World Court Tennis in arcades. The TurboGrafx 16 version would have been perfectly fine if the home console release had presented a largely identical experience to the coin-op. But Namco being Namco, and Namco determined to put their hearts and souls into the TurboGrafx 16 while deprecating the Famicom and NES out of spite, they went the extra step. World Court Tennis offers an entire Dragon Quest-style role-playing adventure that provides a framework for its tennis gameplay. You begin in the bustling town of Chicago, a burgeoning metropolis inhabited by about 6 people plus the good king of tennis, and set forth into the world in order to thwart the evil king of tennis, who has stopped the citizens of this world from enjoying tennis by stealing all of its treasures and tennis courts. Naturally, it falls to you, a low-tier tennis player with no particular skills to speak of and only the most basic gear in your possession, to single-handedly save Tennis Kingdom from this horrible fate. In the way of all classic RPGs, the good king gives you a pittance of money and sets you on your way to navigate a crude, tile-based world and defeat the ultimate evil single-handedly. Sorry, no doubles here. The setup may sound familiar to anyone who has played the older Mario Tennis games, because Camelot straight up stole it for their Game Boy Color entry in that series. Shameless. Though it's not exactly as if Namco invented the idea of combining RPGs with some other genre. You'll recall that Mega Man 2 had its genesis in the fact that the dev team had been assigned to work on a Portopia-like baseball murder mystery called Proyaku Satsujin Jiken, and wanted to do something more meaningful on the side. In Coconuts, Japan inserted pachinko into this sort of Dragon Quest-like aspect with 1987's Meizase Pachi Pro Pachio-kun. Oh, and then you had 1988's Captain Tsubasa by Tecmo, also known as Tecmo Cup Soccer, a soccer game where every match played out through menu-driven commands like an RPG. So in that sense, Namco was simply jumping on a trend here. But so far as I can tell, no one had really merged a pure Dragon Quest alike with a true sports experience before World Court Tennis came to PC Engine in mid-1988. You wander from town to town earning cash and buying better equipment to enhance your performance stats on the court. Every once in a while, you face a boss whose defeat rewards you with one of the crucial treasures you need to unlock the final battle against the evil Tennis King. You travel by land and sea. You can warp to familiar towns. Villagers give you advice. It's a totally normal, fully acceptable, ultimately middling 8-bit RPG in every sense of the word. It's just that the random battles here don't play out as turn-based combat encounters. Instead, when you stumble upon a random encounter or boss on the road, they challenge you to a tennis match. Remarkably, really, considering that the evil Tennis King has barred anyone from playing tennis, and victory goes to the competitor who takes the match with standard rules and standard play. The goods you purchase along the way with the money you earn for victory enhance your stats in a meaningful way. You hit harder, you run faster. This in turn gives you an upper hand in random encounters and allows you to overcome the bosses in order to reach the island where the evil Tennis King awaits, with progress saved by password in the mandatory turbo chip fashion. Yes, believe it or not, World Court Tennis is a purer and more comprehensive role-playing adventure than Dungeon Explorer. I had to double-check my math here myself, but there's no question about it. And this wouldn't even be the last time that Namco pulled this stunt. If you manage to defeat the evil Tennis King, the Good King rewards you by encouraging you to play Final Lap Twin, a racing game that featured the exact same dynamic, except with Formula 1 taking the place of tennis, which we'll see next year. Man, what a weird little console. No wonder TurboGrafx 16 fans are so devoted to their system. I can't say I blame them. Next time on TurboWorks, 2 more sports titles, which practically brings us to the end of the console's entire sports lineup.